Hi viewers, I am creating these videos to help teachers of maths support their learners in making sense of mathematical concepts and their associated procedures and processes. And today I wanted to look at significant figures and in particular identifying the number of significant figures that a numeral has. And I'm going to be using my place value counters to help me with this. And actually, this is one time I think where the online version of this manipulative, as a way of introducing this concept, actually has some benefits over the physical manipulative, over the, actually using the place value counters. And so what I'd say is, although I would have kids using the place value counters with this, I would first of all be showing them this using the virtual manipulative rather than, say, with the physical counters. So let's have a look at a number. Let's have a look at a number like 327.6. Just to start with, keep things nice and straightforward. So what I would say to pupils here is, right, I'm going to adjust the counters so that I only have the counters that I would need to show this number. So I don't need to go as high as the 1,000 counter here. I can go only to the 100 counter. And then I can't stop at the ones counter. I need to go to the point ones. So I can now build this number. I could build 327.6. But before I do that, and this is where I think the virtual manipulative has the advantage slightly here, I'm going to show this as a table in numerals. So I've got my hundreds, my tens, my ones, my point ones. Because what this comes then is, okay, so how many column headings do I need? And the number of column headings that I need is the number of significant figures that that number has. So if I now do want to build the number, 327.6, I can see I need 4 column headings, and so that's how many significant figures it has. Whereas if I look at a number like, say, 320, well, then I can show, in order to build that number out of my place value counters, I only need the hundreds and the tens. So I need the 100 counters, but I only need the 10 counters. And now I can build that number. I can build the number 320. So how many significant figures has that got? That's got 2 significant figures, provided, of course, this 0 is not significant. And if it were significant, the standard notation would be to underline it. And then I would be saying, right, well, because although there are no ones, because the ones column is underlined, I do need to include that. And now it has 3 significant figures. And this will work with the decimals in the same way as well. Let's say we had 0.0032, then in order to show that number, all I need is the what's that, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and the 10,000ths. So the largest one will be tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So again, we've still got 2 significant figures there, and I can build that number if I like. But if I go to something like 0.0302, well, then I'm going to need some tenths, and I'm going to need some thousands, and I'm not going to need any hundredths. Sorry, wrong. I'm going to need some hundredths, and I'm going to need some 10,000s, and I'm not actually going to need any thousandths. But we can see that that automatically comes up because my highest is hundredths and my lowest is 10,000s. And of course, that is sort of working towards the idea that, from the first significant figure, the first column that has value, anything between the first column that has value and the last column that has value is significant. So this 0 is still significant. But we can see what kind of why that is there, that if I want to represent this number, then I'm going to need some hundredths and I'm going to need some 10,000s, but I can't have hundreds and 10,000s without including the thousands column in the middle. And we can even talk about a number like this. And I always like to include numbers like this because this 0 here clearly is significant, but it's not significant because of the fact that it separates the two digits. It's significant because it's a result of rounding. It's an accuracy 0, as it's sometimes termed. So it's a result of rounding. Some number has been rounded to, in this case, the nearest tenth or to one decimal place, and to one decimal place it has become 320.0. So although I only need 300s and 2 10s to represent the value of that, because I do need, again, similar to the idea up here where we underline the 0 in 320, because I do need to include columns up to that 0 to write this number to that many places, then I am going to have to start with my hundreds and get down to my tenths, and we can see that that now has 4 significant figures. And so once pupils have seen this a few times with the table, they're normally able to use the physical manipulative, use the place value counters to sort of model the same idea. And they're normally able to see, well, I would need to include a space for my ones here because that 1 0 digit is underlined, it is significant. Or I would need to include a space for my tenths here because even though I don't need the value, I've got to be able to express that whole number. And I could start actually, if I was on an interactive whiteboard, I could start actually writing the digits into these columns in place of dragging the counters in. But this in particular, because you only ever set the highest and lowest values of your counters, by changing those around, it's quite easy to see how many significant figures a number has, as akin to how many columns we need to properly represent that number. So that is my short video on how I would introduce significant figures using visuals. In this case, the place value, the virtual place value manipulative. As always, I'd like to say a big thank you to MathSpot and its creator, Jonathan Hall, who has created this wonderful website that I can use to bring these videos to you. But not just the virtual manipulatives on this site. There are all sorts of other really useful tools for maths teachers on this site. So I know I say it every time, but hopefully by now you've taken my advice. But if you haven't yet been onto MathSpot and had a good look at what it can offer, then I very much suggest you do so. I can pretty much guarantee you will not be sorry for having spent a bit of time playing with it. And again, as always, if you are interested in sort of using manipulatives and visuals to support pupils in learning about mathematical concepts, then please do check out my website. That is visiblemaths.co.uk. And among the many things you'll find on there, you will find a link to my book, Visible Maths. And Visible Maths is full of sort of ways of using manipulatives and visuals to help make sense of maths concepts. And on the website, there is a link to my publisher, Crown House Publishing, and they have some sample pages on there, as well as, of course, the ability to order a copy if you feel it would be a useful addition to your teaching and learning library. I'll be making these videos throughout lockdown, so if you and potentially beyond as well. So if you have a sort of concept or a procedure or a process that you feel, well, I'd like to see that modeled using manipulatives and see how we can help pupils make sense of that, then please do get in touch and hopefully I'll get around to creating it for you. Thank you very much for your kind attention.